This video goes over the basic setup of a TrackDrive call flow when you're not trying to have an IVR asking consumers questions about their situation before you route the call. So I'm going to click on Setup here and go to Offers, and I've been working on this test for video demo. And I'm only going to go over the call handling in here. There are all other videos for exception handling and whatnot. So in here I'm going to click on call handling, and when you first create an offer it does just say you're going to hang up on the consumer when a call comes in. Obviously that's not what you're really going to do, so we're going to edit this. Now each one of our routing options, call flow, exception handling, whatever, has the ability to name what you're trying to do, add filters if it's only supposed to happen in certain situations, optionally play a message. Now these messages are not looking for a key press. You can't say, hey, press 1 to do something. These messages are something like, this call may be recorded, or please hold while we transfer the call to the next available agent. These just play, not listening for any keystrokes before we take the action you tell us to. Now each option does indeed have the option to do anything. We could forward it to different buyers, we could forward to a different offer, add it to a schedule, which is our lead to call automation. I'll go over on another video. Put them in a hold queue, take them off a schedule, record a voicemail, block the caller, like if they're calling in and they press 2 and they're supposed to hang up, or you could just say, hey, sorry, we don't handle that, and hang up. But when you just have receiving a call without a key press, ask for, the typical thing you're going to do is forward it to buyers. Now down here we're going to list our buyers. I can either click here and find buyers that I already have in the system, so I can add a couple buyers. I just keep clicking in the white space, keep showing me available buyers, I do my thing. Or I can add a buyer on the fly here that isn't in the system yet. I can go and click on add buyer here, and I can add a buyer in line, which will put it right on the offer here instead of going to buyers, add a buyer first and all that. Okay, so I can also add a buyer group here, but it is important to understand your buyer group cannot have any of the individually listed buyers in it. So if it says you can't save that group here, you would have to find the buyer that's in the group and delete it off the individual listing, because we're trying to handle the buyers and we don't want them listed twice. Okay, so I'm just going to say default routing to buyers. Okay, the reason I say default, it has no filters on it, so it's going to fit every single call that comes in. Okay. However, the reason I'm calling that default, I'll explain here. I want to add another option for when a call is received, and I'm going to say when a call is received from Janet Yeager, traffic source. I can't type when you're looking, close your eyes. Okay, so in this situation I am trying to filter this routing option. So I'm trying to say that I only am trying to do this when the calls are coming from Janet. Okay, so now Jan has a special one. I can or optionally say something I wanted to. I'm also going to forward to buyers for her. However, I'm just the only buyer I'm sending it to is this one buyer here. Okay, so I create that flow. Now we have when a call is received and I'm not requesting a key press, do these things. But every time TrackDrive's looking for what should I do when a call comes in, it looks at your routing option from top down, finding the one that matches. Okay, so as we have it set right now, there are no filters. You would see them like this if there was. There are no filters on this first one. It's the default routing, but because it's above the one with filters would never be found, because TrackDrive would come down and say, no filters on this, use it. Okay, so I have to make sure that my options are in the right order, so as TrackDrive starts considering what to do, it comes in, finds this one, says, oh, is the call from Janet Yeager? Well, yeah, it is. Okay, the route to this one buyer. Oh, it's not Janet Yeager, keep looking, here's one with no filters, and hence it can route to these two buyers. So that's the simple call flow for when a call is received. We do have some other options. I could do a greeting and request a key press, but I'll do that on another video showing you how our IVR works. However, we do have some other rules that come in, not when the call's starting, but buyer transfer rules. So I can whisper to the buyer, hey, here comes a call from TrackDrive, be ready for the customer. I could also say to them, whisper, same thing, but this time asking them, can you press 1 to accept the call? So while I'm whispering to them to accept the call, if they don't press 1, I'll take it back from them and give it to another buyer that's on the offer. If I did have this, when one is press 1 to accept the call, I would also want to add in the oops, you pressed 1 too slowly. So I can be telling buyers to press 1 to accept the call if I'm dialing them one at a time, or, and you'll see this in another video, when I do buyer groups, you might have a bunch of buyers listed in the group and tell it to dial them simultaneously, so that you're telling the system, hey, call them all at once, but so that the fastest system doesn't always get the call, I'm going to tell those buyers to press 1 to accept the call from me. The fastest buyer would get it. The other buyers would fall off the car and hear, oops, you're too slow. Or if the message, the whisper here, played out, they'll hear, sorry, you placed too slow, when they haven't pressed the button fast enough to get it. Now, the calling buyer music, by default, when we're calling a buyer trying to transfer a call to him, we are only playing a ringing sound. That's TrackDrive's default music, quote unquote, when we're sending a buyer a call that the consumer would hear. They just hear ringing noise. If you want to override that ringing noise with like customer retention music, like, hey, thanks for calling the best health insurance hotline in the world, we have many agents ready to help you, hang in there, while you're waiting for people to press 1 or whatever, which could be a long time depending on the flow of those buyers, this will override the ringing sound a customer would hear. Okay, and we also allow you to prompt for a zip code, and if they keyed in a zip code that the United States Postal Service doesn't say exist, we would play this message and then go back. So these are an infinite loop between each other. We ask for a zip code, they do it wrong, we play, hey, sorry, that doesn't seem right, try again. It replays this and asks them again, but we're telling them it doesn't exist by whatever you tell us to say here. So those are the few things you do on a simple routing, trying to figure out who can take which calls. But I will give you a complex routing in the future here on another video here about advanced call handling.